Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Come here, baby Ella. Hi, my baby. Hello, my love. Today we have Ella here with us. Our beautiful baby Ella. Mwah. Hello, my love. ¿Cómo estás, bebecita? So, Ella just turned 5 months old. And isn't she just objectively the cutest little baby ever? I love her so much. Mwah. So this is just a quick test. I'm using the new tripod, the Tribex SE. It's heavier than I thought it would be, and it's definitely useful. I've definitely noticed that I don't dread adjusting the tripod height, where a lot of other times I might just completely just live with whatever height it was already at, because kind of getting down and screwing each individual leg, trying to adjust it, then balance it was like 5 minutes, kind of an annoyance. But now with the Tribex, it's like, yeah, sure, just, throw it to whatever actually works for the shot. I'm also using the Brandon Lee ND filter, and all of that is on the Sirui Aurora 35mm f1.4. And of course, this is all connected, of course, to the S52X. We're also recording right now onto the Blackmagic Video Assist 12G 5-inch. So we're recording in Blackmagic RAW. And then for the audio, we have the DJI mic, the first one, not the second one. And this is a pretty good setup, I think. What do you think, Ella? Do you like it? Do you like this setup? How are you coming across in the camera? Mwah. Mwah, my baby. So I figured I would just do a quick little video test of some of the new gear I got. And so far it's working well. It's basically doing as good of a job as the old gear I had, but a little more convenient. And this 35mm is growing on me. I mean, I really prefer 50mm, and I have an amazing 50mm coming very soon. Hi, baby. It's the Canon 50mm L f1.2. So I can't wait to see what that looks like. I figured that since I have an 85mm f1.4 and now a 35mm f1.4, I was going to get a 50mm f1.4, but 50mm is my favorite focal length. So I figured, why not get an f1.2? And then when looking in the f1.2 land, you can either get the Sigma, which is good. It's definitely a good lens, but it's expensive. I mean, not in the grand scheme of things expensive, but it's like around $1,400, right? Mwah. Hi, my baby. So it's like $1,400, and it's probably going to be clinically sharp, as the saying goes. Not much character. The Canon, on the other hand, is known for having a really interesting character, especially when you leave it wide open at f1.2. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And let's be honest, when I get an f1.2 lens, I'm probably going to keep it at f1.2, right? I doubt I'm probably going to stop it down too much. Although, it's not glued open at f1.2, right? So if there's a need to show the background, then you can always stop down. But I mean, this is 1.4. You can still see the background, right? It's not as if everything's blurred to nothing. You can see the volcano right there. One of the other cool things about this is the video head. So we can actually do some pretty cool pans. There's the Google building. We can also do some pretty good tilts. I haven't exactly balanced this, but overall it's pretty good. Just the rough balancing I did is kind of good enough. And here we have Angie with Ella. San Salvador is in the background. Hi, baby. Hello, my little baby. Ella va a agarrar. ¿Qué fue esto? I really like how easy it is to reframe, you know? You can just lower it, no problem. Takes like 2 seconds. It's heavier than I thought, so it's kind of like if you're bringing it, it's not something you're throwing on the side of a camera bag. It's kind of going in the bag and taking up a decent amount of space. But overall, I like it. Think it's working really well. So now kind of the carbon fiber travel one is good for uh, travel, basically. It's also good if I want to carry it while walking. While I would say this one is definitely the one I'll use at home, and probably the one I would use if I'm driving somewhere and planning on filming something. I would definitely bring this one. Just because, seriously, like, the one I have is obviously collapsible legs and they screw and has multiple segments. So it takes like a decent amount of time. You have to kind of get to the bottom of the tripod to screw it and then push it back up, then screw it into place. And you have to do that 3 times, one for each leg, which is kind of a hassle. And it's not just that that's a hassle. It really kind of, for the most part, locks you in to the segments, right? Because it would take like 15 minutes if you're going in between segments to make sure all 3 legs are lined up just right. And that's just like too much work, you know? It would just take too much time. So typically what I would do is either it's going to be this segment or it's going to be the next segment up. And even with kind of that, you know, way of kind of speeding things up, it would still be a lot more time consuming than this. What I love about this is I can stay standing, adjust the height, and balance the tripod pretty much at any level I want. And it takes like 10 seconds, you know? So it's definitely a much better method of, you know, adjusting the tripod. And I think that's its main goal, and it succeeds in that. The only thing, like I said, is from the reviews that I had seen, it had kind of seemed like, you know, you have a floating camera, you put it wherever you want, let go, and then it stays where you want it. It's not that smooth, and I don't know if that's limited to the SE. Maybe the full version is a little more kind of like floating camera like. With this one, it's kind of like you've got to move the thing and press down on the legs, and it's compliant. It'll go where you push it, but you have to push it, and you have to look at the legs and be like, oh, okay, I need to move the whole center this way, push down this leg. But again, even doing that is 100 times easier than manually adjusting each of 3 legs. So I would say that overall, it is a much, much better tripod experience. And yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth it. Brandon Lee variable ND filter is pretty cool. But it's an ND filter. I've already had many other ND filters, and this works pretty similarly. I do like how the 6 to 10 stops you basically just put a +5 on the end of it. To get that kind of range of like 1 to 10, a lot of the other filters start showing X patterns or, definitely towards their edges when you try to, block as much light as they'll let you. You're really kind of pushing the boundaries. With this, it feels like you are super comfortably in the range of the ND filter. Now, the one area that I have not really tested very thoroughly is the CPL part. And that was actually one of the reasons why I was very excited about this filter, was because having the CPL plus the ND in one filter is very, very nice, right? Because a lot of times, especially with like skies or water, you want to be able to use the CPL, and it can get kind of annoying when you're screwing multiple ones onto step-up rings on, so you might have your CPL, your VND, maybe some other filter as well, and you have this stack of filters screwed on. So the magnet system is kind of nice on the one hand, right? Because everything works together. But the trade-off is that now these filters really only work with this system, and it's an okay trade-off to make. What I did was I got a bunch of different sized step-up rings or adapter rings. So I got one that's going to fit this lens, the 62 millimeter adapter. I got one that's like going to fit most of my other lenses at 58. I got one for some of my vintage glass at 49. And then it came with the 77, which will be perfect for the 85 millimeter f1.4. So hopefully, once I have basically like the main lens for each size having that adapter on it, then it just becomes pop. You take the VND off, pop it onto the next one when you're swapping lenses, super fast and easy. And again, like in a similar vein to the Tribex tripod, that's kind of what the Brandon Lee VND is also giving you. Kind of a more convenient way of doing something that you could already do, but just in a more fiddly, time-consuming, annoying way. And if it's your job, well, first of all, you probably have better gear than either of these two things. But if it's your job, then okay, maybe that is where you really get into the optimization of your workflow, right? But at the end of the day, if you have to deal with something annoying and you're getting paid for it, fine. But what I kind of think about is, would I be filming this video if I kind of dreaded that tripod? I'm gonna have to like deal with it, and then I'm gonna have to find the correct VND, and then I'm gonna have to like get the step-up rings. Like, all of those friction points might just make you say, I just don't feel like it, right? Whereas if you do have a super convenient setup, then it removes that friction, right? There's less barrier that's gonna stand between you and going out and filming something. So it really depends, but I think that, there's a strong case to be made that if you can get something that's fun, that makes you more excited to shoot, then it's worth it, right? Because after all, if you spend thousands of dollars on cameras and lenses and then they sit on a shelf, like, isn't it worth it paying $300 for a VND set that gets you to use the equipment you already have? I don't know, maybe that's just obviously like a justification, but overall, so far I'm liking it. I'm really excited to try out the glow mist filter. We'll see how that looks. And I'm also happy because all of these filters are 77 millimeters. And that new lens that's coming is going to be 72. I have one 77 millimeter lens, but basically the whole range is going to fit with this one filter set. So I definitely like that. I like being able to have one filter set that can work pretty much across all my lenses. The adapters are nice, and they're going to mean that I can use the filters on all my lenses, but having a 77 millimeter filter, even though you don't have the cone, you know, from all the step-up rings from 49 to 77, even without that, it's still going to be a lens like this on like the Helios, for example, with then a filter like this, right? So it's going to be a little weird, but I think it's going to be fine. I mean, it depends. I have other ND filters that I might end up still using on some of the smaller lenses. I am very curious to see how the anamorphic lens works with the filter. I think it's going to be good. And, you know, I love shooting with that anamorphic lens. Today, I'm not shooting with that lens because I wanted to really try out the Sirui Aurora, which is the newest lens that I've gotten. And it's a great lens too, I have to say. It is, it's making me actually enjoy shooting with 35 millimeter, which the other 35, actually I have a couple other 35 millimeters. I have the 35 millimeter anamorphic, which I like shooting when I'm doing video, but you have to kind of commit to de-squeezing in post, so it's a little more of a setup, right? I have a 35 millimeter f2, which is fine. It's a cheap makey lens, but it's just kind of like nothing special about that lens. I cannot picture why I would pick that up over the 50 mil f1.8. So now that I have a 35 f1.4, now it's kind of like a legitimate contender to, do I want to take the 35 millimeter or do I want to take the 50 millimeter? Pretty soon I'll have the 50 millimeter f1.2, and probably I'm always going to be using the 50 millimeter because from what I've heard, it's a magical lens. It has this really amazing glow to it, a lot of character. We'll see how it looks. But I'm still keeping my 50 millimeter f1.8, which was the very first lens I ever got, and probably my favorite lens. I'm going to still keep that one because obviously adapting Canon EF glass to the Lumix S5 IIX, it's not, I'm expecting the autofocus to be usable, but not perfect or a joy to use, right? I'm expecting it to be slow and laggy and probably hunt sometimes, and probably I'll have to fall back to manual focus a couple of times here and there. Like probably every time I use the lens, there'll probably be some point when I'm just like, I'm switching to manual because this autofocus is just not cutting it. So it could be a good or bad thing. I mean, like I was saying before, I feel like the Canon 50 millimeter f1.2 L is a super well respected lens, a very, very well known lens. And the Sigma 50 millimeter f1.2 is a fine lens and a good lens, but it's not legendary. It's longer, it's heavier, it's more expensive. So kind of for me, and I'm not saying this is the same for everybody, if you want a native lens that's going to give you much better autofocus, the Sigma is the way to go. but I don't really care that much because I'd much rather have a lens that does something special, that does something unique, that makes people say, "Oh, wow, what did you use for that shot?" You know? So that was the trade-offs for me. Is I got the Canon, which to me is more beautiful, more interesting. It was less expensive, it was lighter and smaller. So to me, that's the trade-off that I made, right? For other people, you know, they might go a different route. But today's video is really just me practicing with my gear, setting it up to do kind of like an interview style thing. I have this interesting project that I'm thinking of trying to do. And it's gonna involve interviews. So I want to do this mini doc, and I'm gonna probably be talking to someone about it soon. So it's just a good idea to get familiar with the equipment. I haven't really done a lot of video lately. I've been doing a lot of photography, which is weird. I was not expecting to be doing that, but I kind of became obsessed with making zines. I went on a trip to Panama and I took a bunch of photos, and it's kind of like, you know, maybe one day you might want to have like a photo book, right? You might want to print your own photo book, but there's many steps before you get there. At least I think so. I mean, obviously I could print a photo book, but it's kind of like you're going to be picking your images, sending it off, spending, you know, maybe a couple $100, and then, you know, getting the book back. I would rather that I feel super confident in my ability to sequence, tell a story, what photos go in, how do I lay them out, how do the photos kind of rhyme with each other. So I'd much rather be able to do some incremental steps towards that. So I started with this little 8-page zine. It's a single page of paper, and then you fold it, cut, make one cut, and you have a little booklet. In fact, all right, so this is the photo book I did. You see what I mean about the rhyming? I like how both of these kind of have a similar layout. And then there's the back cover. So yeah, it was just like, well, I went on this trip to Panama. I took a bunch of pictures and I was thinking about how would I lay them out. And you know, it's like it's fun to take pictures, but a lot of times you want to do a project. And a project for photography is either one single picture that you're going to print. It could be a zine, which is what I went with, right? So that gives me like something I can hold, something that, you know, is like an artifact of what I kind of did, right? Now, obviously, this is just a single sheet of paper, and it's, you know, folded by myself by hand, but I still think it's cool to make something, right? It's a little bit like scratching that arts and crafts itch. So I had fun with it. I enjoyed kind of experimenting with it, and I want to actually experiment with like the classic saddle stitch zine, maybe like 16 photos or something like that, or 16 pages, and just kind of see what that looks like, play around with it a bit. And I really like the DIY thing right now. So I'm kind of just having fun with photography and specifically printing out the photography and keeping myself to the specific philosophy that I kind of go with when I'm shooting photography. It's kind of makes it fun, makes it nice, you know? So when you kind of think about it, like I'm going to have a deliverable, an artifact as the end result of this trip, this photo walk, this series of photos I'm taking, you know, I want to turn it into something, and that gives you something to kind of be shooting for rather than just shooting because you wanted to take some photographs. And like I said, it's kind of surprising to me because I'm not even that much of a photographer. I really care more about video. It's just that photography is kind of fun and easy when you already have the camera and you're just walking around, especially traveling and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, so that's what I've been into lately is zines, making my own zines. So yeah, I like it. It's been a fun experience, and I'm thinking of making some more zines. And then, you know, after I've done a decent amount, then maybe I would tackle a project that I would actually want to print, you know, like a real photo book with the print on demand service. So that's kind of like the idea right now, at least. But we'll see how it goes. So far, I'm just having fun playing around with the new virtual ND, variable ND filter, and having fun playing with the new tripod, the other adapter rings, and the glow mist filter are coming soon. And I can't wait to get the 51.2. That is going to be a really fun lens to shoot with. So we'll see. Anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I think the battery's about to die. And now we can see what we got here on this footage. All right. Bye.